presentation of the GAC. Hi, I'm Joey McWilliams. Glad to get to be with you today. And it's a privilege to get to sit down and visit with the Commissioner of the Great American Conference, Will Prewitt. And Commissioner, I know there have been so many announcements literally across the country all week long and for the past couple of weeks. I'd love to give you an opportunity to talk about then the release from the GAC that went out today.
Sure, Joey, it's great to see you, hear your voice. Feels like it's been forever and a day since basketball tournament in Bartlesville. Today, the Great American Conference main announcement that we are delaying fall championship play and practice until August 31st. Start competition on September 28th. We'll pick up on the schedule wherever the schedules would have been at that point. As far as how everything works out, we're really at the mercy of what the NCAA Division II governance structure does, but it's been, I guess the nicest way to say it is it's been a very interesting time. 23 conferences across Division II, not to mention everyone in Division I, Division III, NAI, all having similar conversations. What do we do with this fall? Right now, Division II, again, there's 23 member conferences. There's a 10th conference today announced they would not play during the fall. That leaves 13 that currently hope that they can play this fall, many of which, including our neighbors at the MIAA, we expect our neighbors from the Gulf South Conference to be in the same place with some sort of delay in the fall. Joey, there's a number of reasons that we feel like that delaying as opposed to just a straight up postponement is the proper course at this moment. We want to give our student athletes and coaches every single chance possible to have a viable fall competitive experience. Will we sacrifice safety at the end of the day? No. I mean, that's the absolute number one thing. So I can't guarantee that we're going to play on September 28th. What I can guarantee is we will go to the absolute, within reason levels if we can offer safe, viable, competitive championship play this fall.
It looks to me, Commissioner, as though even with a delay like this, it buys the league and as you mentioned, other leagues time to put some other things in order and give the student athletes an opportunity to prepare themselves best to be able to go into a season. And talk a little bit about what that might look like then as you're starting things up in the early mid portion of what is an all conference schedule.
Sure, Joey, and time really is of essence, and to buy more time, it helps us reacclimate our student athletes to full athletic performance after having a very non-typical spring conditioning and atypical summer. Obviously, it gives us the opportunity. We really hope that there are some advances in testing as far as availability, pricing, the whole gamut in testing. That's a real issue for everyone involved in sports or really in education period right now. It also allows our schools to focus on all 12 schools have in-person classes this fall. It gives everyone a chance to work on getting their campuses open, doing that safely, getting student life moving again, because that's the most important thing. If we can't open our campuses, we obviously can't have sports. So that's the first priority. So we're bumping sports a little bit to the back of the line so we can get campuses open. But in a perfect world, we'll start, student athletes will be able to do the normal out of season practice, conditioning things. Fall sports start their normal in season practices on August 31st. And we get, what would be a late summer, early fall camp in. We start play on the 28th. I believe our first games would actually be on the 29th with some volleyball matches. But We roll into the schedule as it exists. If Division II cancels their championships, which is a conceivable possibility by the NCAA Board of Governors and the Division II governance structure, if everything went well and we were competing in the fall and doing it safely, we would go ahead and try to I think we'd be able to complete 90% or more of all of our seasons in the fall playing an in-conference schedule only. If Division II and the NCAA Board of Governors moves fall championships to a spring cycle, we would play as much as we could in the fall under the current schedules. Then we would move whatever contests were not played before September 28th into a spring window. That would allow us to complete 100% of schedules. It would be very awkward if there's a split season. If we completed everything in the front part in the first semester, if you've got a volleyball team or soccer team or football team that conceivably was four months in between competitions when you got to an NCAA championship. So conceivably, if NCAA championships moved to the spring, if everything went well, it could be a split GAC schedule this year with GAC championships being played in the spring. Be pretty busy for the sports network if we run through the entire calendar year of GAC championships from February to May.
We'll have some fun. We'll definitely put some miles on the cars there in the spring. Commissioner, you laid it out very well, and I had one other question regarding that. Then, of course, the NCAA Division II put forward a mandate, and it limited the maximum number of contests. And of course, the minimum number of contests too, those were also reduced. So for instance, football schedule went from 11 games down to 10. And then the way it would be set up right now, if things took place in the fall, about 7 games on the football schedule. So as football as an example, if those games were to be played in the spring, you get those 3 back. Do you get the extra 1 back as well?
No, Joey, those numbers won't change. Division II institutions went through so much financial trauma last spring, so much up in the air for this fall going into next spring, that reducing the contest really was a financial piece. We really hoped, you hate to take away competitive opportunities, but we hoped if we can take away 1 or 2 road trips from every team, maybe that's the difference between an assistant coach keeping their job or losing their job. Maybe that's the difference between an additional trainer or not an additional trainer. So I don't think we're going to see any change there. But Joey, where it could get really interesting is if there are no NCAA championships. Again, we would try to compete and complete as much of our schedules as we can, playing through Thanksgiving. But I think we would definitely see a bowl game opportunity for a GAC football champion or other teams that had a successful year. We've been in contact with other leagues in our region and our part of the country, and if there are no NCAA championships, we would need to get an NCAA waiver to be able to do this for a number of sports. But we would be very interested in having some sort of regional competition with our champions or first and second place teams, whatever would qualify, but to give our student athletes some sort of chance for that postseason opportunity. And our goal as far as completing those games, Joey, we spent a lot of time talking about that in our athletic administrator meeting. If it's conceivable, we want to get 10 football games. We want to get a full volleyball schedule, full soccer schedule. We want to work to try to get those student athletes the opportunities that were already scheduled.
Right. I understand that. Well, that's a very encouraging thought to think about those possibilities, of course, with football and I know more. And then as we wrap up our time together, I want to stay with that note for just a little bit, because on the whole, what you're talking about today seems to be something that's very positive. I realize circumstances are what they are, and we've been dealing with this now for months, but this seems to be a very positive take.
Joey, I really hope it is. And you always want to temper, you want to have hope, but you want to temper sometimes being overly optimistic. The reality is we have a very tall mountain to climb to be able to compete this fall. There's a lot of things that are beyond our control as far as the virus spread across Oklahoma and Arkansas. You know, things that our state governments conceivably could do, but we can't guarantee that we'll play. There's no way that the world that we live in today, there's no way that I can look anyone in the eye and say, I know we're going to play come September 28th. But, I feel like I can look any of our student athletes, any of our coaches, and say, if it's at all realistically viable, we're going to take this as far as we can to be able to compete. Now, we're going to have to do it safely. If we feel like our student athletes, our coaches, our communities, that the risk is too high, then unfortunately, we go to plan. I would say plan B, but I think at this point we're on about plan ZZ. We would look at moving everything to the spring at that point. But Joey, we're not done trying to fight to find a viable path for fall competition, and we're going to do everything as a GAC staff, the staffs across our 12-member institutions. We work obviously very closely and spend a lot of time on Zoom conferences with our athletic administrators. We work with outside consultants from a health and safety perspective. We've got big contributions that our athletic trainers will make, all the way up to our council of presidents. And we're going to try to find that way forward if it exists.
Well, I do appreciate that. And I want to say thank you for the work that you're putting in, your staff, and of course, all the administrators, not only in the GAC, but around the area who are doing the same to see that sports can, if at all possible, go into play this fall. So to summarize then, the Great American Conference does intend to participate in fall sports for the fall of 2020 with actual competition intending to get underway by September 28th, and of course with soccer and volleyball and football. Thanks again for watching today. We appreciate you watching this special presentation of the GAC. I'm Joey McWilliams for Commissioner Will Prewitt. Thank you again. God bless you and have a great day.